Hello everyone, welcome back again to Angela's Craft Room. Today I've got this card for you. I've used the High Tide stamp set. So it's mainly I want to show you how I created the scene behind the birds in the air and on the sand, and how I created that lovely sunset colouring there. So it's all about texture, and you don't always have to use the lighthouse with the High Tide stamp set. So this is the stamp set from Stampin' Up that we're using, High Tide. So we're going to be using the sand and the sea, these birds here, and also the flying birds there. Okay. So we'll get started straight away. So to save time, I have prepared the base of my card. So it's just basic black, 11 inches long, 4 1/8 of an inch wide, and scored at 5 1/2. Then I've taken a piece of Whisper White, which measures 5 1/4 inches by 3 7/8 of an inch, and I've stamped the birds just down the center, just down the bottom of the inside of the card. And I've also glued a piece of Bermuda Bay on the front of my card, which measures 5 1/4 inches by 3 7/8 of an inch. So that's the base card all done. So then I've got a piece of shimmery white, and I've already got it stuck down to my grid paper. I used this thick line here to get my center, and then I've just counted how many, it doesn't matter how big the grid squares are, I just counted, and by luck they were exactly the same each side. And then I've just masked off 2 squares on each side so that I'm going to get that lovely crisp white border when we're finished. Okay. So I use Eclipse Masking Tape, that's what this is here. And I've also punched out using a circle punch with the Eclipse Masking Tape, a circle for my moon, which I think I will put about there. The piece of shimmery white is 5 1/4 inches long by 2 3/4 of an inch wide, if you want to know that. I know a lot of you like to know. Now, what we're going to do to start with, I'm using Sahara sand, and I'm just going to start by laying down what I call the undercoat, because we're going to be stamping on top. So it's just a matter of layering down some sand, some Sahara sand colour first, because I want, that's going to be my base, and we're stamping the sand stamp on top of this, but you need to have a good lot of undercoat ink already applied before, to get the really good dimensional textured look on your card. Now, to create the sand, I go up to about there, and as you can see, I've gone up on an angle, so I haven't gone straight, I haven't just gone straight across. And this is really important when you're creating a scene. Just think what it would be like at the beach. You're not going to get the sand completely straight. So, and thinking also that this is on a sort of bit of a hill, because imaginary up there, there's a lighthouse somewhere, but we're not putting the lighthouse on today because this is quite a narrow panel. So I'm just going up there, and I'm not worrying too much. It's a bit darker there because once I stamp the sand on, it's going to change the outlook altogether. So I'm doing this a lot quicker than when I did the card that I showed you at the beginning of the video. It took me quite a while to do the blending, but I wanted to show you how I did create that sunset. So then I'm taking some Pool Party, just tapping off, get most of that Sahara sand off. Now I'm tapping off the Pool Party and starting off the side and just going up. Not quite to under the moon, because I'm going to be bringing in some So Saffron under the moon. So this is going to be the water, and so I'm letting it sort of go back down into the Sahara sand, the colouring, so it's all blended in really nicely. So I'll just bring that across in a line, which I'll just go from this side so it's got a bit more depth of colour from both sides. And just remember, it doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to stamp over the top of it. So that's really coming up well, most probably because I've used these daubers. It was a bit more challenging when I did the first card, but most probably because I've sort of worn these in a little bit, it does help. So I just want a bit more Pool Party in there. Then I'm going to go back into the Sahara sand, just see how, and I just want to add a bit more Sahara sand colour, so it's just a little bit darker. Because we want to be able to stamp our birds on the foreshore of the beach as well. And then we're going to have some up the top here as if they're like on a higher ground sort of thing. So I just want that to be a little bit darker because that Pool Party is quite an intense colour. Right, now I'm going to grab the So Saffron, stamp that off. So you can see I'm just using the same dauber. Now I'm just going to bring the So Saffron underneath the moon and up the side of it. So I am going to be using Melon Mambo as well, and you will see that you most probably will lose a lot of this yellow because Melon Mambo is such a rich colour, but it just gives such a wonderful effect for a sunset, especially when you've masked off the moon like this. So I'm just going around the moon because we can always come back in again with a bit of the moon, and then we're going to grab the Melon Mambo and we're going to stamp a lot of this off because it is a really rich colour. And the most challenging part of doing these sort of scenes is just working out what colours go with what, like what colours that you like doesn't have to be the colours I use. I'm just showing you the technique, and then you can go away and give it a go. But you can use the post-it notes, the sticky post-it notes, instead of the Eclipse masking tape, but I would never go back to the sticky notes. Now I use the Eclipse masking tape. Just do a search for it on eBay and you'll find it there. I actually have to get it, I'm in Australia and I have to get it sent from America, so I buy 2 rolls at a time when I buy it, and it lasts me so long, and I use it all the time. So now I'm going to bring a bit of that Melon Mambo down onto the So Saffron round that moon, because you just don't want the Melon Mambo to stop dead. You want it to blend into that yellow. And with this one, I've actually got a bit more yellow under the moon than I did have my original card, and I lost a lot of the So Saffron colour. So it just depends how deep you want that sunset Melon Mambo to be, you know, before you stop sponging. So I'm just going to put some bit more up there. So it's nice and rich colour. Now I'm just going to go, so I want it to blend around the moon. I can see on this side that it's stopped a bit, and I could just see where the Melon Mambo stopped and the So Saffron started, and you don't want that. You want it to really blend into it. So that's really blending in nicely now. So to stamp that off, and I'm just going to grab the Pool Party because that's the C. And I'm just going to bring that up into the So Saffron, so we can really, we want to stamp that C in, and we do all that before we remove it from here. So then just going back into the So Saffron, and that's what I mean, you just keep going back into your colours until you get the effect that you want. So I'm pretty happy with the way that is at the moment, and that's what I call the undercoat. And you can see that I've only used 1 dauber for that whole thing. So I'll just close my ink pads. One more. So just get the colours that you think that go for you. So today I'm just going to use an acrylic block, and this is the sand stamp from High Tide, and I'm just going to, actually I might put it down like that, and you're very used to me not using acrylic blocks. I don't use acrylic blocks very often, but in this instance we need to. So we're going to take our Sahara sand again, and where this stamp has that notch, that's where the lighthouse normally would sit when you stamp it. So I'm going to stamp the stamp upside down, so I've got the notch at the top there. So I'm just going to stamp that into my Sahara sand, and I'm just going to do the bottom first. So I might just stamp that off a little bit. Now I want to go up on an angle, and I'm just going to stamp that off. And you can see that I'm stamping it on a angle because you want that hill, that sand up on that hill. So the water will come a little bit over so that's just adding more texture. Like that. Now I'm going to take that off and pop the C on there, exactly on the same block, and I'm going to take the pool party, and all I'm doing is stamping that onto pool party, and I'm just going to stamp that onto there. And don't worry if it comes into the sand a bit. That will just add more to your card. So I'll most probably go over this a couple of times. So it's important to leave that. So you can see that, like, we needed to sponge first, and then we needed to stamp over the top of our sponging. So I just added a bit more colour down there because I want the sea to come in to the sand like it does at the beach, like as if it's coming into the seashore. So it's not a hard card by any means, it's just all about technique and how we create the back image, or I should say the sunset image. Just a little piece of something there. So let's let that stamp off. So I think that's pretty well done. Now we're going to take the moon off. Look how beautiful that nice white crisp moon is. Now we're not going to take the masking tape off of, if we can help it, off of the cardstock. We're trying to peel it off of here, like so. And then we're going to bring in our stamparatus, and we need to have the sponge down because we're going to use photopolymer stamps, so we need the sponge down there. So we're going to leave that on there. I'm going to leave that on there because I've learnt by trial. I need the other magnet, if I can get it off. It's pretty strong, these magnets. And I'm putting the magnets on the masking tape because when I did my first card, I ended up with a lot of, some ink on my borders, which wasn't good at all. So we'll just put these away, and we're just going to use some early espresso. Now I just like to put my stamp set underneath that plate so that when I'm stamping, I've got something to lever to push down on. So why I've left the mask there is because I'm going to just put the first lot of birds are going to go about there. So I'm going to just press down to get that on. Then I'm just going to stamp up those birds with Early Espresso. And they'll take 3 or 4 stampings because we need it to be really dark over that Sahara sand. And even though Sahara sand is a light colour, this is, because I've put layers and layers of Sahara sand, it makes it just that bit darker. So then I'm just going to wipe over with my chamois those birds, and then I'm going to just pop a couple right up here on the sort of on the top part of the hill. So they're still on the sand. So we're going to stamp that up, and the masking tape will help us to only get it on where we want it. So with the Stamparatus, make sure you only press down where your stamp actual images are. Don't stamp down over here. Okay, just do one more. So we want those birds nice and dark. Then we'll just wipe them off and peel that off there. And then all we've got to do is put our flying birds, and this time I think I'm just going to put them over the moon like that. So you're not going to get them, it's not going to show them all because we've got it masked off, remember. And then we're going to stamp them on there. And see how pale that is? So we need to, that's where the Stamparatus is really good, because we can just keep stamping until we get the colour we want, which is a lot darker than that. So it's going to take a few stampings. I most probably should have used black, but that's okay. We'll just stamp it a couple of more times. And I like to stamp some over the sea as well. Now, I did forget to get my sentiment, so just 2 seconds. Sorry about that. So this sentiment is a happy birthday one, and it's, I know some of you say to me, isn't that what your grid lines are for? When I line up this, but I can see even by putting on the grid lines that the stamp isn't straight, and it's just some stamps, the way they cut them, they just are not straight. So that's why I don't go by the grid lines on here. So I'm just going to give my Stamparatus a bit of a wipe, because this happened to me with my first card and I ended up with a terrible mistake and I had to try and cover it up. So I'm just grabbing a piece of scrap cardstock, and what I like to do is just pop that down there. I just grab a little bit of Memento Black, and that's just got a little bit on. Just use a cotton bud to, we're just seeing if it's straight. So that's pretty straight, but when I look at it on here, it looks quite crooked. So that's the challenging part. Now I'm just grabbing my VersaFine Black Onyx Black, because this is such a vibrant black. That's what I like to use this one for my sentiments. So I'm just going to pop that down there and see how nice and vibrant that is, and that's just one stamping. So I most probably only really needed to stamp it once, but I'll stamp it once more, and I'm quite happy with that, how it's stamped on there. Now I'm just going to wipe these birds because I'm going to reposition them, because just one last stamping, I want it to go over, sort of under the moon. I'm going to have to move this one down, how I did it last time. But I don't want it to go, so just pop it underneath the moon. I did stamp it about in 3 different places last time, but I'm not going to do that this time. Just giving you the general idea of how I created this scene using the High Tide stamp set. So you know, you don't have to always use that lighthouse. So I'm quite happy with that. If you wanted to, you could try and position the birds in there, but I'm just going to leave that as it is for this one. So there's quite a few techniques I've used there. So now I'm just going to take these magnets off, take this off, pop my stamparatus out the way, and we'll grab our grid paper, and we're just about finished. We're just going to peel that off, and look how nice and crisp and white that is. It's so much easier, and I've done a bit of a boo-boo there, so I'm not going to try and fix it on camera, because all I did last time was use a bit of, it's obviously gone underneath the masking tape a little bit, so you could always try the rubber, just a normal pencil rubber sometimes will remove it. It's not going to do it for me this time. It has removed it a little bit, so I most probably, to save that card, I would most probably, because it's got those couple of marks there, I'd most probably just put a bit of ribbon down there, but that shows you, so I'm not going to glue that, because I'm going to pop a piece of ribbon down that side to save that card. So then I would just glue that as equal as possible onto your card, and you've got that beautiful sunset. So this is the first one I did, and you can see how different the sunset colours are with either of them, and I've used exactly the same colours. So not every one is going to turn out exactly the same, but that gives you an idea, and I hope that you like that technique. I love making scenes of nature, and I just thought I'd share that one with you today. So I hope you enjoyed it, and until next time, happy crafting.